Hey South Hills, as a church, we have 8 values that define who we desire to be as a collective church and as individual followers of Christ. I think it's important to share these values and what they really mean with all of you. The value I want to unpack today is this: we won't wait for someone else to reach our neighbors. We are not the kind of community that waits around hoping someone else will do it. We believe in taking action because we know that God has placed us right where we are among our neighbors and friends for a reason. It's not just about showing others the love of God. It's about inviting them into their very own relationship with Him. One way we start the process is by investing in the people around us. That's why we are passionate about teaching on the topics that we know unchurched people around us are interested in. We want to speak to the questions and concerns they have in their everyday lives. And we want to make it easy for you to invite them to join you right here on Sundays. We believe that the love and hope we've found should overflow into the lives of those around us. So let's roll up our sleeves, invest into our neighbors, and invite them to experience all that Jesus has to offer. Let's be the catalyst for the positive change in our neighborhoods and beyond.
I've been doing the Bible study. I've joined the group for the past, 16 years. It's been multiple studies. At one point, the group was so big, it was like 30 people. It was like a mini church. And then it just started dwindling and the crowd started getting smaller. People were moving away and it ended up being just the two of us. It was tiny. And Christy was like, "No, this cannot happen, Tessie, don't. Let's not stop this." She was like, "No, let's not stop this. I need this."
I said, "Tessie, no matter what, even if it's just you and I, we have to keep this group going. I need it. I need it from my soul. I love you. And we have to keep it going." And so we did. And then Heidi came back and then the group started growing again.
Once I came back, I felt encouraged and supportive, and I did feel like normally it's usually hard for me to share, but when I was in this group, I was able to really share the realness of what was going on, and it was scary initially, but they were great and supportive and encouraging, and it was nice to just kind of be real and not have to overthink.
So I joined the group about a year ago, I think it was, and if I'm being honest, I joined the group because I felt bad that I was always telling other people to get in groups, and I was like, I can't tell other people to get in groups if I'm not even in one.
I joined the group 8 months ago. I got out of a crazy life situation, and the day that I showed up to the group, I was late and I was in 2-day-old clothes and just, going through it. And yeah, I walked in with a notebook and just was super open with everyone, and I felt really comfortable. I knew I needed community, so that's ultimately why I found myself just on the Church Center app, looking for any group, to join, and the way it lined up was just perfect.
Now, since we've started, it's been growing and it's amazing. I found that, small groups is where you can meet your people.
We all need relationships where we can both pour into someone else and get poured into ourselves. We need people that we can learn and grow with, and that's what this group is for me. It's women that I can read the Bible with, that I can pray with, that I can count on. I remember times when they've been like, "Hey, you know what? I know you're going through a lot. Let me come over and watch your kid for a few hours or take him to the park." And it's the little things as well as the big things that make all the difference. I've created lifelong friends that I can text and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," or "Hey, I need prayer for this." They're like a family to me.
The group was just such a monumental thing in my life because outside of being in the group, I felt like I could lean on everybody that was a part of that environment, and I felt like I could reach out for prayer and reach out just in vulnerability, and there was so much power in that. And then just feeling like I could trust a group of women was life-changing for me.
it takes a long time to trust somebody and be vulnerable and all of that. So that's what I was saying. It's, this doesn't happen overnight, because all of us, we might think that we don't need a group and we don't need anybody right now, but one day we are all going to need help. This has helped me so much to get to the basics, to pray, to have no problem, even if I'm stumbling, just like how I am right now, right now, that I can actually just talk. All I have to do is be intentional that I'm praying for you for this specific reason, and I have the faith that it's going to change, and I've seen it. I have seen it over the years, how prayer has changed, how it's affected every single person, whether they know it or whether even they asked for it. And it's amazing, because supernatural is what you get to see. Yeah.
Now, we are going to conclude our Family Month series. And here's the thing with me. If you know me, then you know that I love sports. I am mad about sports. I love my Rams. I love my Trojans, Dodgers. I like the Angels. They're Orange County. I like the Angels. Let's see. I could watch golf all day. The Lakers. So I love sports. One thing I don't like is argue and debate and talk over each other. It drives me nuts, okay? And they talk about dumb things that nobody's ever gonna know. Is Babe Ruth a better hitter than, this guy? It's like, Babe Ruth has been dead for a long time. Like, how do you possibly know this? So they talk incessantly about these things that just don't make any sense. I'm gonna give you 20 seconds of this nonsense, because I don't think you could hear any more than that, but check this out.
Michael Jordan, when Michael Jordan came back to the Bulls and they had added Tony Kukoc, who was like the best
from playing baseball.
Yes, and they had Tony Kukoc. He had Horace Grant, who served that powerful in the first three-peat, and they did it with Dennis Rodman, who might be the greatest.
You just keep going until I hear it stop.
Stop. Top defender in the history of the NBA.
Thank you. Stop. It's just so annoying, and that's all it is for like an hour and a half. Nonsensical. Drives me. If I have to hear who's better, LeBron James or Michael Jordan, one more time, I'm gonna scream. Everybody knows it's magic, so let's just stop with all that. But it just drives me nuts how it's like all of this stuff, and honestly, it's on cable news as well. If you put it on cable news, all they're doing is yelling at each other, over each other. I was going to put a clip of that, but that could get dangerous in this crowd, so I'll stick with sports on that one. But it's just all it is. And we get used to this. In fact, in your family, you might get used to just arguing. Maybe in your family, everybody just always argues, and you're just used to the yelling. You're just like, that's just us. We're kind of crazy that way. That's us zany folks. But what happens when those things aren't so fun anymore? What happens when they actually are hurting you? What happens when you actually get offended by somebody in your family and they really, really hurt you? There's an old saying, don't make a mountain out of a molehill, but what if it is a mountain? What if it is something that's really, really hurt you? And how do you deal with that? And that's got to be something that you can't avoid. Somebody in your family said something to you, or they did something to you, or they hurt you, and you don't really know how to get past it. And so what we do is we think, well, you're my family, so I'm going to continue to love you, but I'm going to love you at a distance. I'm not going to be anywhere near you, but I'll still love you. And if people ask me why that's that way, I'll just say, well, they live far. It's better this way. We don't have a lot in common. We'll make up a lot of excuses so that we don't have to address the major issue we have with that family member, because it's just too painful to do. And so we pretend that it doesn't bother us, but it actually does. We pretend, I've got a good life. I don't need so-and-so in my life. They can do whatever they want. I don't care. But when the thought of talking to them comes up, I can't talk to them. Obviously, they're still owning something in your headspace. Obviously, it's still actually address that. It's still going to be there, okay? And it's not going to be fun. Now, there's a story in the Old Testament about two brothers, and one brother finally realized, you know what? I'm going to have to address this. I'm going to have to actually deal with this. So we see here in Genesis 32:3, it says this. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, this is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, stay now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this message to my Lord that I might find favor in your eyes. So he's like, hey, let my brother know I'm coming. I'm going to be there pretty soon. You know, let him know that. You could think on face value, what's the problem? He's just saying he's going to meet up with his brother. What's the issue? It seems like a normal thing, but it's actually not, because the story doesn't start there. It actually does get a little bit trickier, okay? Then there's a dilemma here. Now, for me, I think when I read this story, I'm thinking, that sounds pretty cool. He's going to let his brother know he's coming. Like, if I haven't seen Vic in a long time, I'm going to go, hey, Melanie, can you let Vic know that I'm going to come and see him? I haven't seen him in a while. Let him know that I'm there. Okay, great. And if you just pick up the story like that, it sounds pretty easy, okay? But it doesn't just start there. Genesis 32:3 says, Jacob sent messengers ahead, so we know that. But also when it continues in verse 6, it says this, when the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, we went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him. In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people with the camels as well. So I tell Vic I'm going to go meet him. Great. He said he's going to come meet you with about 20 guys. I'd be like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Why would I just want to go say hi to him? Why am I freaking out thinking this is going to be, he's going to beat me up? What's the problem? It's because it doesn't start there. Listen, anytime a conversation escalates in a full-blown conflict, it's always about something more than that exact exchange. Okay, so there's an old saying in counseling, and that is that the issue is really never the issue. In other words, if you're going to come, if it comes to me, I can never anymore. I know that has nothing to do with the dishes. I know that that's not the issue. I know that there's a whole backlog of stuff that you have yet to address in yourself and in that relationship. So he's coming with all of this excess baggage. So what exactly happened with these two brothers, okay, that Jacob is so freaked out about? Tasty food, talking about Esau. And brought it to his father. Then he said to him, my father, please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. His father Isaac asked him, who are you? I am your firstborn, he answered, your firstborn Esau. I ate just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed. When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me too, my father. But he said, your brother came deceitfully and actually already took your blessing. Now, you can look at this in our American view, right? In our American goggles and say, what's the big deal? Just take it away from him and give it to him. I don't understand what the problem is. The problem is that your birthright was a very essential ceremony and it was taken extraordinarily seriously. Quickly, what is a birthright? It was the right of the firstborn son in a family to inherit the majority of his father's possessions and authority, replacing the father as head of the family. So what would happen is when the patriarch was dying or not, he was going to make it very much longer, they would have this special ceremony and the dad would give the baton to the firstborn, and now the firstborn is now over the entire family, the CEO of the family basically. And what happens is, because of bad advice from mom, by the way, Jacob goes in, actually pretends he's Esau. He puts hair on him because Esau's a big dude, and he deceitfully, knowing that his dad doesn't have very good vision, deceitfully gets the birthright. Now, you got to remember, Esau is huge, right? Like me, and Jacob is kind of wimpy, like Vic, right? So this is kind of it gives you this visual here of okay, one big buff dude and then the one little not. So we go on, right? Genesis 27:41 says, Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father gave him. He said to himself, the days of mourning for my brother are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob. Let me translate that because this is an Old Testament. So what he says is I'm going to kill him. Okay, it means kill. So he is about to kill him. He is so mad that he's like, that's it. I am going to get him. So when Jacob thinks it's been 20 years, I'm sure he's forgotten about it. I'm sure he's good now. He's not going to hold a grudge. Your brother's coming with 400 men. pack up everything, let's get out of here. Okay, uh-oh, he's mad at me. I know he's mad at me. I know he's still holding on to this. I am toast. Now why? Because that's what happens when past trauma with a person makes even neutral interactions with them appear threatening. Even neutral interactions with them. It makes it threatening. When Jacob took the blessing from Esau, he wasn't gaining anything. He was actually going to promise himself, I'm now going to live with guilt. This is going to be a noose around my neck, and I'm going to go through my entire life fearing for my safety and knowing I screwed up. It was not a blessing to him. And why is this so dangerous in our relationships, guys? When you push relational rifts down and don't deal with them, they end up resurfacing later at inconvenient times in explosive and often destructive ways. Do you ever notice that? Okay, let's put it into context. Thanksgiving is coming up, and let's say that you go to your parents' house, right? And you get there, and your kids come in and they're playing, and then you ask your sister, hey, can you pass the mashed potatoes? You want me to pass you the mashed potatoes? Yeah. Sure, I could pass the mashed potatoes. I was here all morning with mom making the mashed potatoes. You just got here and did no work, so certainly I could pass you the mashed potatoes. I go, okay, obviously something is going on. This is not about potatoes. You obviously have something going on that you're not addressing. You know, leaders, if you have ever been a leader in anything, you know that you make decisions as a leader that not everybody likes. Suddenly, when you make a decision, everybody if you've ever been a boss or a leader in any organization, every single thing that I've been hurt is now your fault because you hurt me. Now I'm triggered. Okay, I think that was the same thing with Jacob. You know, it's like he's probably paranoid. People go, "Hey, Jacob, you know, do you have any siblings or anything?" I have a brother. Yeah. How come you never talk to him? Because he wants to kill me. Was that what you wanted to hear? You know, that's the news. You want the weather? It's like, I just asked you if you had a brother. Like, calm down. Okay, there are people in our families, a lot of times stress, but now we can't talk about. Hey, this, I'm in trouble. So take out your legal. You see something. Marriage, weight, divorce, exes, debt, finances, jobs. Like, don't mention, there's a list of things you can't talk about because if you do, it's going to now trigger them and they're going to get really angry. There's actually a term for this and it's called buttons. And we all have them. Let me give you a definition. Button is a surface level sensitivity to certain words, actions, or environments that triggers an instantaneous defensive reaction connected to past trauma, not the current situation. Okay, that's a button. And we all have them. It might not even been the worst thing. It's just, but it's something you can't explain. The button. So another way, a button is expected to be for you, taking action against you in a way that devastates you. You don't deal with it, guys. You're going to take it out on people that do not deserve it. So you do this. What happens when you do this? What happens when you bring this relationship to relationship? If you don't deal with some of these buttons that you have, it can come out in the most benign ways. Maybe you're like, you get a new jacket. And you come out of the changing room and you just ask your spouse, "Hi, how do you like my jacket?" And you say, "Oh, it looks good." I'm like, "Well, but the sleeves don't go all the way to my wrist." I'm kind of pulling the sleeves down. You go, "Well, maybe you need a bigger size." Are you saying I'm fat? No. Are you saying that I eat too much? Is that what you're saying? Is that why you're asking me that? Forget it. I don't want the jacket anymore. Like, what is happening? That's how the buttons work. You have a button that the person had nothing to do with, but they pushed it, and now it's like they're getting all the wrath that's actually reserved for somebody else, okay? And these are the reactions that we get. Now, if you're wondering when you push somebody themselves at an early age, this is my defense mechanism, okay? So my reaction to you pushing my button often means I yell at you. Often means I shut down and I say nothing. I just become very quiet. Often means that I hold this thing against you. It means a lot of different things because as we're kids, we actually develop these reactions because they are like our little comfort, like whoobies, right? Our little blankies. And if I feel you're going to push a button, I go right back in there. Do you want to talk about it? Nope. Are you bothered? Nope, not at all. When you're totally bothered. Is there something that I could do? Nope. Nope. Why are you being this way? Because that person taught themselves at an early age, this is how I handle this. I'm going to have my reaction to it. And you're like, well, what can I do? Nothing. I'm good. Now, as we talked about several weeks back, these are unhealthy and they're going to hurt you and they're going to hurt your relationships. And what you have to do is you have to break that cycle. Someone has to break the cycle by acknowledging and owning their buttons and taking accountability for their reactions. Now, I know some of you who might be watching this or you hear this and you're thinking, well, that's cute, but you don't understand the person I'm dealing with is an idiot. So I can go say sorry to them, or I can go try to make peace with them, but they're a moron and they're not going to take it well. So it doesn't help me. Your advice doesn't help me. They're still going to be doing dumb things, even after I try to deal with them. Guys, this is something that you have to understand. Conflict is inevitable. You cannot avoid conflict. It's impossible. It's just going to happen. However, how you handle conflict will determine how it affects your relationships, okay? Research after research after research study has shown that the marriages that last the longest are not the ones that they're just so in love, or they just are so attracted to each other, or that they're even both Christians. I know a lot of Christian couples that got divorced, okay? So it's not even that. What is it then? It's conflict management. These are two people that understand how we handle conflict and how we can move forward for conflict. That's the key right there. If you're wondering, how do I make my relationship last long? Looks go away, personalities start to fade, you start to get cranky, you start to get older, more things bother you. That's inevitable. It's going to happen. Then how do I learn conflict? It's going to be a deal. We're going to have that. How do we deal with it to move forward? And if you're asking me like, well, how does that happen? Ask somebody that's been married a long time. They'll tell you. They'll give you pragmatic lessons on what that looks like. That's what it looks like. Repairing a relationship requires taking responsibility for your feelings and actions, not blaming or changing them. Okay? And that's emotional maturity. But it's important to know and remember that our actions do have consequences. And consequences help us not to live in denial. Okay? So when you have a consequence about something, that helps you realize, I can't live in denial anymore. You know, if you're looking up things you shouldn't look up online, right? And your spouse finds out and they said, you know what? I need to be away from you. Now that has consequences. And now you don't have to live in denial anymore because this is a problem here. This is a real problem. That has a consequence to it. How do we take action against it? The very first thing we have to do is what we've been talking about for a lot of weeks, and that is to be humble. Live humbly. James 4:6, this is Jesus' brother. But he gives us more grace, and that is why Scripture says, God opposes the proud, but shows favor. Now, proud. Now, listen. To give you an extreme example of this, okay? I oppose communism. I oppose this way of government. I oppose this way of treating people. I oppose you. God is using a very strong word. He's saying, I oppose you. I'm standing in direct opposite. If you're going to live to be proud. And that's dangerous. But he shows, I favor you if you're humble. I will give you grace. I'll let you know it's okay. Even if you screw up, don't worry about it. You're humble. You're admitting you don't have it all figured out. It's okay. Guys, trust me. God will humble you, not because he's mad at you, because he loves you. Not because I'm the most down-to-earth pastor we all know. That's not it. It's I have a healthy fear of God, and I don't want to stand up here and tell you to do something that I am not doing because I don't want him to humble myself. And a lot of examples of this, guys. There are people that have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people at their church, and then their church has networks, and they have organizations, and it covers the whole world. And you could take a guy like Bill Hybels, boom, gone in a second. If you don't humble yourself as a Christ follower, God will say, I'll do it for you. You don't want that. How many TV preachers have we seen? Blow it. Had a whole world watching their show, and it went away. Okay, so in Jacob's situation, you don't know what it's going to happen. It's going to happen here. It's going to happen here. But I got to make this right. And it's an important lesson that Jacob gives, and I want you to remember this, guys. You cannot outrun your dysfunction. You can't. You can't mask with buying stuff. You can't mask it. You can't mask it with how much money you make. You can't mask it with whatever car you're driving. You cannot, no matter how hard you try, outrun your dysfunction. And we are in a county that is trying to outrun their dysfunction. Either they want to show you all the stuff they did, or they want to show you all the stuff that their kids did in Little League. I want to show you how great we are, and they're trying to outrun their dysfunction instead of dealing with it. Okay, your house can be filled with fees from Little League, right? Your house can be filled with all these things, material things that you've always wanted. That's great. Jacob got right, and it was gnawing at him the whole time. You can't outrun it. You can't do it. Okay. Now, Jacob going back isn't just making it right. This is where it gets real hard, guys. He's going back to something that he is humiliated about. It's humiliating to him. It's humiliating to him. And then there, he's gonna have to go back. He's gonna have to go back into that room that he doesn't want to go back to. So many times, guys, the person we're fighting with is just a stand-in for the person we ought to be fighting with. We get so like angry with other people when we should be. Relationship to relationship, thinking that it's always the other person and it's not you. So whether it's your friendships, you're going to be hopping around from different friends, or romantic relationships, or whatever kind of relationships you're in, it's always somebody else. And some people go, well, I just have a bad picker. I just picked the wrong girls. Or I just picked the wrong guys. What is so broken in you that you keep looking for these broken projects to fix? Maybe you should try to look at you as the broken project to fix you before you want to fix everybody else. They're in a mess. Look at your own self first. Guys, to avoid our own stuff, we want to fix everything else. And you got to look in the mirror. Jacob understands that. And so he says, it's time to face my brother. And I think after a lot of prayer, he's like, I've got to do this, okay? It's like this, guys. Sometimes what you're going back to face is almost too much to bear because you're just not facing off with yourself. Take up parents, maybe in your 50s, whatever. And let's say your dad had anger issues. I don't want to deal with that. Why? Because I know if I sit in front of him, I'm that 7-year-old kid that was crying again. I know that I'm the 10-year-old kid that he hurt. I know that I'm that young person again, and I can't go back. So what are you going to do? I'm going to So what are you going to do? I'm going to outrun it. We're good. I'll pretend good. I'll pretend everything's fine. It's going to catch up to you. Jacob understands that. He says, I got to go back. When I go back to Esau, I'm going to be that same guy that it's going to put me in that space of being that guy that did this awful thing, but I got to go back. And then in Genesis 33, it says, he himself went on ahead and bowed down on the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Not really how they thought the story was going to go. But it's like reconciliation is rare. Doesn't mean it isn't possible. It is impossible without God, though. You can't do it without God. You can try, it won't work. And guys, I want you to remember this, okay? This is the unexpected good news. And if you don't get anything else that I'm saying, please get this morning. You can experience deep relational healing even if the other person refuses to participate. I'm going to say that again. You can experience deep relational healing even if the other person doesn't participate. So a lot of times what we do is we go, fine, I'll have this out with you. I'm going to say sorry, but I better get a good apology back. Because if you're not going to apologize back, forget this. I'm not doing it. You're missing the whole point. You can't control them, but you can control what you do and how you do it, right? No matter what their reaction is, you're going to be good. Hebrews 12:14 says, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Do you really think that this is going to be there to tell somebody how wrong they are and that's it? Or this is to be there to tell them how much better you are than them? No. That's like, listen, you got to be honest with what's going on in your part, and whether or not they take accountability for it, it's not up to you. But it's what you do, it does to your heart, guys. Think about this for a second. In your family or somebody that's hurt you, maybe you just need to apologize to somebody. Maybe you just have to go, look, I'm sorry. I'm going to own my part. And maybe you have to go to that person and say, listen, I'm not going to allow you to hurt me anymore. I've been holding on to this thing for my life, and I won't allow you to do this anymore. I'm not going to allow you to manipulate me. I'm not going to allow you to be passive aggressive to me. I'm not going to allow you to be anymore. That's a lot of us, going to give a lot of us a lot of anxiety. And we're like, is there another way? Can I send them a Hallmark card or something? This sounds really hard, and it is. But it's that other people are going to get the wrath of whatever else you're holding back. And it's going to come out in very, very ugly ways, guys. Now you can say, well, they don't deserve it. You don't understand. They really hurt me. Like taking away all your inheritance, okay, great. Maybe they did. But remember, it is what it does for you. Ephesians 4:31. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. So listen, guys, I've had to deal with this so many. People keep saying, I can't, James. What you're saying is so bad. Like it's me going, Melanie, you hurt me so bad. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this fork and I'm going to stab my. Okay, you can do that. You're only hurting yourself. By letting all this stuff go, you let go of all of that junk and that hate and that anger and all that stuff. You let it all go. Do you ever wonder why that story ended up like with Jacob and Esau that way? It was very simple. They both went to God. They did. Jacob says, I screwed up. I know I screwed up, God. What do you want me to do? I want you to go make it right with your brother. Okay, I'll do it. I screwed up. Esau's like, God, you've shown me grace and you love me. I'm going to go love my brother. But here's the important thing, guys, and something I want you to really remember. If only one of them did this, that one still would have been just as good. Irregardless of what the other it didn't matter. It didn't matter because you gotta say, you know what? No matter what you're going to do, regardless of what you're going to do, I'm going to trust God and see and trust Him, and that's the common denominator that they both had. And here's what you could do in your family. You could tell that person, I want a better relationship with you, and ask, what's one small way I could demonstrate that I care about you? Okay? Some of you might be thinking, yeah, that's lame. I'm not doing that. That's just, I'm not. I'm just going to go keep on. Try to. Unfortunately, though, and they're going to actually get it. So you're going to have to deal with this at some point. I'm going to get on my wedding night. My dad said, "Hey, I'd like to talk with you." And my dad and I never grew up with doing Andy Griffith show stuff like it. Okay, it wasn't like that at all. In fact, my dad took me fishing one time, and he didn't know that you needed a weight on the fishing thing. So. And that was our fishing trip. So we didn't have this father-son talks at all. And after my parents got divorced, it was really ugly. And not only in our immediate family, but our extended family, it was real ugly. And so, but my dad and I, we weren't super close at this time, but we weren't enemy. He loved me. I know I loved him. He was a good guy. He had a hard time that day. And so he says, I'd like to talk to you. So he pulls me aside and he says, son, I want you to remember something I'm going to tell you today. Never go to bed angry. And he had tears in his eyes when he told me. And I knew, my dad's a Christian, so I knew that he clearly got that from the Bible. But the tears were coming from a much deeper place than that. The tears were coming from because I didn't do it. My dad had left, and it takes two to tango. I get it, but left. And my mom didn't want the divorce. My dad said, this is what we have to do. Within probably about a year and a half, he realized this is a huge mistake. I shouldn't have done this. And he tried the rest of his life to get her back. And he was always there for her. They were best friends, actually. They were best friends. They were together all she was about months. And my dad was there every day taking soup, making her food, doing all these things. So I asked my mom, I said, Mom, why don't you just have Dad move? You have a big house, you have a lot of room. Why don't you just And she was like, I can't do that. I go, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Look at all the stuff he's done for you. How could you say that? And she goes, because he's never said sorry. That's all I wanted. That's it. And he knew it. He wasted so much of his life, and all he had to do was say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. Couldn't do it. He couldn't. After she passed away, he didn't want to live anymore. He would spend his days truly feeding birds. Go to the park, feed some birds, go home. And he had a massive stroke probably about 2 years later, and he passed away. When we went to his place, he was surrounded by pictures of my mom, just living in that time capsule. Now, they're both Christians. They're both in heaven right now. My dad's probably fighting for the remote control with Elvis to watch his shows or whatever. But if Chuck were here, and I want to say this to you online as well, if Chuck were here, he would say, don't wait. If there's something that you need to own it. Just own it. And don't live with this anymore. Okay? At the end of the day, guys, none of us deserve what we get. Trust me. But if there's something going on out there, make sure you release it and be free. It's not about whether you think they deserve it or not. It's about if you want to live in freedom. And the cool thing about the church family is that we can encourage each other because we've all got this, by the way. So if any of you are going, is he just talking directly to me? No, talking to me too, you too, all of us. We've all got this stuff. And I want to encourage you to do that. So let's close in prayer. I'm going to pray, and then after I pray, in our church, all campuses, and we're going to show a video after I pray, and I want you to check that out. So, Father, I just thank you so much for your church. I thank you that we could talk about these things that are real in our lives that we've all got. All of us do, Jesus. All of us do. All of us, me included, have these issues in our families that just hurt us like nothing else. And many of us are convinced that we're right. And we can live that way. But God, I just don't want any of us to be held prisoner of our own anger and resentment. I want us to let it go. So just help all of us, me included, just to do our best to follow you, trust you, and let it go and have some of those conversations we don't want to have. But we know that as long as we do it, we're going to be good, no matter how they receive it or in your name, Jesus.
South Hills Church, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for watching our service online. Whether you're watching it for the first time or you're watching it again because you enjoyed the service so much from the weekend, I'd like to take a moment and dive into our giving. Every week we give people the opportunity to give back and give to the local church so that God can continue to bless your lives and bless your finances. Here at South Hills, we believe that everything comes from God. We believe that He's the one that chose us and brought us into this world, gave us our gifts and talents and abilities. And I just want you to know that when we give, we are giving back what God has already given to us. If you've ever seen any of our envelopes at a South Hills campus, you'll see on there that it says every week at South Hills, your generosity is giving people the opportunity to live a better story. And there's a scripture on there in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21 that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I want to encourage you today to click down below and set up your giving, whether it's for the first time or whether you're doing reoccurring giving. We have 4 ways to give here at South Hills. 1, you can do it in person at any of our campuses through an envelope. Or 2, you can actually text any amount that you would like to 84321. And the 3rd way is to download our Church Center app. I encourage you to do this one because the Church Center app gives you opportunity to stay connected with our church and your campuses. It's a great tool and resource for you to know what's going on. And the 4th way to give is to give online. You can go to southhills.org/give and you can set up your giving there. Whether you're a guest of our church or whether you are a member of our church, whether you simply just like to watch our services, I encourage you to trust God with your finances so that He can bless and anoint your finances and you can be trusting God in this journey of living life to the fullest. I love you and thank you for watching our online service today.